Eat, drink, smoke, or eat the fine food, drink the fine bourbon, smoke the fine cigars. Tony Katz, good to be with you. The stores are still not open because we've all lost our minds. And this is not the episode for the faint of heart. If you're afraid of coronavirus, I don't know if this is the place for you to be right now. It's not that coronavirus isn't real. It's not that coronavirus isn't bad. It's that what we've done on the other side is far worse. The end of liberty, like I want to do the contact tracing on liberty. When did we decide, you know what, it didn't matter? At what moment did that happen? Did that occur? Fingers Malloy is with me. We are drinking, we are smoking, and we're drinking the Redneck Riviera whiskey, mainly because I had it in the house. But Redneck Riviera comes from John Rich of the country band Big and Rich. My interview with him is on Virtual Bourbon, which you can get on YouTube. Just go to Tony Katz TV and you can find that interview. It is small batch. Bit of vanilla, a bit of oak, a 40% alcohol by volume. So it's a very, very smooth American whiskey, and it's a blend. It's a blended whiskey. This is the easy stuff to drink. There's real sweetness involved throughout. I want to always say a bit of butterscotch that's coming through in there. There's nothing you need with this. I mean, we have the sphere fingers, but you don't need anything. The nose is right there. It's almost syrupy sweet, almost in that Long Branch kind of style, which is Matthew McConaughey's stuff with Wild Turkey.
All right.
Right, there it is. Just simple and easy. Simple and easy. Oddly enough, touching me a bit medicinal right now. But I think it's going to be different on a sphere because I have one right here.
I'm getting the butterscotch.
I love these things.
A little medicinal, like you said, but very smooth, doesn't burn.
No. I'm gonna end up spilling this thing. Yeah, I just got it all over me.
That's considered good luck in Latvia.
Yeah, This is a great example of what my coronavirus has been like, and it has been a mess. And I'm starting to. I want to take a poll of the people who have been driven to some level of crazy by what they're seeing. There's a level of crazy about what it's done to people inside their houses. And by the way, this is nothing compared to real sacrifice out there. Real sacrifice is coming. But people who have been home all the time, people who haven't been able to work, it's a totally different thing on the head. People like, you were talking earlier, Fingers, you are desperate for a need of return to normalcy.
Yes.
Because is it just the day in, day out of doing nothing, or can you not figure out something to do?
Well, I listen, I have plenty to do. I don't have hard and fast deadlines to do them. So there are a lot of days where I'll wake up and not know what day it is. Because, weekends, weekdays, there's no feel anymore. If you don't have a sense of normalcy, it's the old Seinfeld bit, Tuesday has a feel. Thursday has a feel. The weekend has the feel. Well, in the age of coronavirus, if you are at home, if you are under state-imposed quarantine, then there really is no feel to any days. So I need to get back to a sense of normalcy on top of the fact I'm living in my refrigerator, Tony. Living in my refrigerator. I'm eating all of the things. So that's not good.
Yeah, I still work, right? Every day I'm still at it. So I don't have any of those kinds of feelings whatsoever. I know what day of the week it is. I'm not living in my refrigerator. I get dressed every morning. I have pants on every single morning. I have a button-down shirt on every single morning, which I know people think is crazy. But
that is crazy.
And I do it on weekends, too. I wake up and I get dressed.
I got to say something. I don't think I've ever seen you in a T-shirt. Ever.
Do you want me to take this off right now?
Finally.
Right? Yeah, I don't. It's just not my milieu. No, I am. I don't know about everybody else, and I don't. Brian Stelter had written on Twitter that he sees what's happening in the country and sees our government response, and he crawled into bed and he cried for our country, and I longed for toxic masculinity.
Right? I don't need to know about Brian Stelter's menstrual cycle.
Dear Lord, there are plenty of women who have held strong during coronavirus. Don't do that.
It was a joke.
But I will tell you that over the past week, I have had real serious issue with my country. And this is no joke. Like affected in a way that I am stunned by. I still went to work, still did all the things, I'm not going to tweet out, there I was, crying in bed. I never knew so many Americans were willing to stay home, put on their government-issued gray garb, and await further instruction. I didn't know. I didn't know. When I talk about contact tracing America, to find out, when liberty was lost, I'm not joking. What I see from governors, Republican and Democrat, is sick and twisted and diseased and not about science. There are governors out there who claim to be about science if being about science means they're just like Bill Nye. Right? Failed comic turned science guy, and I'm supposed to believe this. It is horrific. The state of California has done two things. First, they closed the beaches in Orange County because the people in Orange County, when the beaches were open, went to the beach. So they closed the beach, and not in the whole of California, in Orange County. That's not about science. That's vindictive trash from a petty punk named Governor Gavin Newsom, who should be physically thrown out of office. He should be removed from office. And I wonder now when I say that, am I going to have a problem with the podcast? Are they going to come and say, well, Tony, you advocated violence. I advocate for people and for their rights. And I'm a guy, I rarely get into I always talk about these things, but I rarely get into it in this kind of way. I'm a complete and total liberty guy. I am in no way a government guy at all. Government is a means to an end and should be as small and as lean as humanly possible. That's not what we're getting. Governors of both parties deciding that the answer is authoritarianism because it's easier, to which the Chinese say, yeah, we could have told you that. You know what I mean? Yep. It's like they all texted President Xi and said, what should we do here? Well, I'd close it down. All right? I'd shut it all down. Yeah. Have you ever dug a mass grave? Oh, super easy. When you're Xi Jinping, it's all super easy. When you're a liberty society, it's all very tough. And none of these people are willing to do the tough stuff. Kristi Noem, Dakotas, she's willing to do the tough stuff. I think Ricketts has done a fairly good job there in Nebraska. But I watched Governor Gavin Newsom, and I'm how could you not be disgusted? And while he closes the beach for only some and not all, he releases sex offenders. There's 7 different sex offenders he released. Attacks on cops, attacks on juveniles, attacks on the elderly, lewd actions in public. It goes on and on. They can't be in jail because coronavirus is in the jails, but he can close the beaches so the criminals get freed and the free people get treated like criminals. How do you sit idly by?
And my question is this cowardice?
Yes.
In a lot of ways?
Yes.
Because to me, since the narrative has shifted and the goalposts have been moved from we're going to do this for a couple of weeks to flatten the curve to now there seems to be plenty of people who are sitting back and saying, no, we can't reopen things because people will get sick. So is it a situation because the narrative has shifted to that where too many governors, Republican and Democrat, are too scared to be part of the first wave of people saying, you know what, this has gone too far. We need to open things up. We know people are going to get sick, but we're the United States of America, and this is not American, what we're doing right
Flattening
now.
the curve was about not overwhelming healthcare workers. I think everybody was like, okay, we can see that. You've sold us on that argument. I think that was a very effective argument, and America was sold on it. Did we have to shut down America to do it? No. They don't have that. I will say at this moment, recording on a Sunday, on May 2nd, there is not a data point out there to prove that shutting things down got us to this place. If you want to argue that if you're sick, you should stay home, if you want to argue that you should wear a mask, if you want to argue you stay 6 feet away from people, those are all worthwhile arguments. You, on an anecdotal level, and on I think for a rather common sense level, you can prove that. You can't prove that shutting down a restaurant did anything. You can't prove it. It's not there. And what it is there's a question of whether or not these governors have this ability and authority. There are some governors like ours in Indiana, Eric Holcomb, a Republican, like that matters anymore. It's all authoritarian garbage. Oh, he's a disappointment and a half. He's saying that, of course, it's constitutional, and he would agree with the people talking about the constitutional merits, but those people are wrong, and he doesn't want to be wrong, too. Well, there needs to be a look at all states at what their governors can and can't do and whether or not they have this authority. The people have to push this subject because the idea of it's easier to shut it down. Well, yeah, it's easier to shut it down. Who asked you to do the easy thing? I'm not asking you to do anything easy. And now in the reopening, they're picking winners and losers we'll get to in a second. All of them can't point to data. The flattening the curve made sense. Are people going to get sick again? Absolutely. There was a conversation about if you had the antibodies, whether or not you could get it again. And then there was some question, but maybe you can. South Korea says, nope, we've done the testing. We have a lot of false claims here. If you have the antibodies, you're not going to get coronavirus again. Well, I don't know whether or not to believe them. I have no clue as to whether or not to believe them. You know what I know? They told New Yorkers to stay home. They told the people of Massachusetts to stay home, Connecticut and New Jersey. That's where the majority of cases are. And according to the reporting, 25% of those in New York City have the antibodies for coronavirus. In LA, it's 55 times higher than they thought. If you take a look at the study from Ioannidis over there at Stanford, it's 80 to 85 times higher. In San Francisco, Jim Garrity from National Review thinks that number's only 10 to 20 times. It doesn't matter. The amount of people who have the antibodies is much higher than thought. Therefore, the number of cases that were in these places much higher than thought. Therefore, the death rate is pushed down, even though the number of deaths are at the same place, except they're not. And this is the other thing that has gotten me nuts. And I'm sorry, I don't want to be that guy. You guys come here because you want to hear about whiskey and you want to hear about bourbon, you want to hear about cigars, and we do talk politics. And I love this podcast in a way that is irrational. It is fun and it is enjoyable and it's relaxing in so many ways. And I get to drink more bourbon. I got to admit, the Redneck Riviera is a very easy thing to do, especially that $22, $25 a bottle price point. Very, very simple. You keep it in the cabinet. Everybody can drink it. If you want to do this with a mix, you can. It's not going to hurt anybody's feelings, but it's just Redneck Riviera. It's just wonderfully, wonderfully simple. Very, very simple American whiskey. Easy to sip, easy to do, all weather, no question. You don't mind if you waste some on some friends you don't really like. You can give it to friends you really like, the whole thing. The first part of this was the flatten that curve conversation. The second part, this whole concept that we're going to make each other sick again if we then go out. Yeah, of course we are. What is the conversation here? Do you think we don't know that? If you don't want to get sick, stay home. This is the opening versus not opening conversation. Rational people understand that they have a chance of getting ill anytime they leave the house. They also have a chance of getting hit by a bus anytime they leave the house. And some people are like, yeah, I want to leave the house. And then other people are like, oh, no, I don't want to leave the house. Well, if you don't want to leave the house, don't leave the house. But when you want to argue that other people shouldn't leave the house, dear Lord, that's messed up. And governor after governor after governor making that argument. You shouldn't be able to leave the house because, safety.
And what a position you paint yourself in when you can sit in your ivory tower. Many of the people who I see commenting on whether people should leave the house or not are getting paid one way or another.
I'll yell at you.
One way or another, they're getting paid. So you can sit back when we reopen the country and you see the numbers spike and more confirmed cases of coronavirus are reported because obviously more people are interacting. And you can sit back and say, see, I told you, if we just would have kept the country shut down, then these numbers wouldn't continue to rise, even though you I don't really know if you could point to the data saying it, but okay, we'll go with that. But we're not keeping track of the lives that are being ruined by this. I'm not seeing numbers about suicides increasing. I am seeing the National Suicide Hotline reporting how the calls to the National Suicide Hotline have spiked in a big way since this whole thing started. Mm-hmm. But you can just sit back in your ivory tower, and they've created the narrative now that the anti-economy people can sit back and say, well, geez, look, we tried to warn you all, and honestly, that's going to be a tough narrative to push back because you've got an entire political party that seems like that, and Republicans who are going along with it too in big numbers, and a mainstream media that this is almost a fetish. They're loving this.
It's gross. It's gross, and they do, and they all want to push back on the idea, oh, you just want money. The economy is people's lives.
Right.
It's people's lives. Well, I'm in favor of people's lives. Sorry. If I'm the only one who actually believes in life, well, then that's it. But I'm in favor of them getting their lives back. But your point is really twofold. There are the people who are damaged by keeping things closed. There is the liberty conversation about whether or not this is an American thing to do. And it's not. Then there are the numbers themselves. The death toll from coronavirus is an inexact number. And it's inexact because it discusses those who have died from coronavirus but does not explain to us what else was happening, those comorbidities. So if you're somebody who contracted coronavirus and died, if someone contracted coronavirus and died, that number exists. But the amount of people who had something else and then contracted coronavirus, that has to be known. Not because their life didn't matter. Some people going out there saying, well, you know, they were 80. What these things happen. Dude, that's a bit messed.
Yeah.
That's a lot bit messed up. The argument is that it isn't coronavirus alone that took their life. So we need to take a look at what those comorbidities are to be able to understand the risk to the rest of us. That's what we do. That's what understanding. We are not a risk-averse society. We are a risk-tolerant society. And this, for authoritarians, is baffling. And this, for people politically, I guess, is baffling. We take risks in America. It's who we are. We take a look at a virus and say, okay, wash your hands, stay away from each other. Mask? Really? All right. Some won't. Some stores will decide whether or not they want to. And by the way, if a store says you have to wear a mask, it's not infringing on your rights. They could say no shirt, no shoes, no service. They can't say a mask. Of course they can. Somebody had sent me a photo of Menards, which is, like a Lowe's or Home Depot. And you need a mask to come in here. If you need masks, we have them. They're only $1. And they're like, look at capitalism at work. Like, right. I thought they were dogging them. Menards can say you have to wear a mask, and Menards can let you know they have masks. They didn't say you have to buy a mask. It's not like 3D glasses. You only get them for while you're there, and you got to drop them off in the bin before you leave. There's nothing wrong with this. Of course they're allowed to say, any business is allowed to say you have to do X or you can't do X, and then you can decide whether to shop there or not.
But here's the thing, too, about that is disturbing. We're so divided as a society. We're so polarized. Where even wearing a mask now has become political. Like, I told a friend the other day, we were talking about it, that I wear a mask in the store.
Do you?
Yes, and you know why I wear a mask in the store?
What'd you get yourself? What'd you got? You got the N95? A little dust mask? You ordered?
No, I got the CDC approved. I look like I'm about ready to rob a Stagecoach mask.
Stagecoach mask. Yeah, very popular.
Yeah, I wear it for the people at the store. I wear it for the cashier that looks at me. I've had several cashiers that look tired. They look a little, frightened. They have to deal with this day by day. And if that cashier feels a little bit safer that I'm wearing a mask, then I'll wear a mask. And it's a pain in the ass for me to wear a mask because I have glasses. And if you don't have the seal on your nose, your glasses start fogging up. But if it makes the people in that store feel better that their customers are wearing a mask, it's a small sacrifice to make because they are putting themselves out there at risk of getting it. So
sure.
I wear the mask, but I don't want the government coming in and forcing me to wear the mask.
Okay.
It's a personal choice, and I agree with you. Menards has said customers need to start wearing masks. Costco has done the same thing, starting, I believe, Monday, that you have to wear a mask. Right. Now you have a personal choice. Are you going to go to Costco? Are you going to go to Menards? And free market. That's beautiful.
And this is where people on the political right fall apart. Oh, they can't demand this. Oh, this is... Of course they can. You're absolutely out of your mind. You don't know thing one about liberty. I mean, not thing one. It's not always your way. Deciding that people are ridiculous if they're wearing a mask, well, you could feel that. But there's nothing else to that. Right. A store can decide it. It's absolutely fine. Like they can decide anything else. There are restaurants out there that say no children. Can't bring kids. You know what I say to those restaurants? Good on you.
Yeah.
Good on you. Keep them punks at home. Seen and not heard. No, I'm not buying you a $50 steak.
Right.
You get chicken fingers and like it.
That's right.
Don't even bring them. So they're right. So of course they are. But there are some people. The protests are valuable. The protesters can't figure out how to get a message across.
Right.
They're two different things. The people attacking the protests are the worst people in society. The protesters who don't protest right are just making a mistake. There's nothing wrong with protest. The First Amendment remains. The First Amendment always remains. It's not suspended because there's a pandemic, and there are people out there who think that it should be. Author Neil Shusterman has called them all selfish because they're protesting social distancing guidelines. That's not what they're doing. They're protesting not being able to run their business or operate their business or feed their families. Neil Shusterman doesn't have to worry about it because he can keep selling books. He gets paid for typing. Right? He could keep doing that. It's amazing, as you mentioned. The people who get a paycheck shouldn't be allowed to have an opinion. How about that? If I'm, because I don't have a uterus, I don't get to have an opinion.
Right.
You don't get to have an opinion because you keep getting paid. Those tough guy journalists out there who keep getting a paycheck, yelling about all these other people because they want to get a tattoo. No, you dope. It's not about getting the tattoo. It's about the guy who owns the tattoo parlor being able to have the opportunity to give people tattoos. You still get to write. He has to sit on his hands and wait for you to tell him it's okay. Completely un-American, completely insane. It is obscene, and the governors who push this stuff and promote this stuff, those governors have to go. That includes Newsom in California. That includes Brown. Kate Brown in Oregon extended the stay-at-home order to July 6th. I don't even know what that means. In Virginia, it's already June 10th. In Ohio and in Michigan, your beloved Michigan, it's the end of May. And here in Indiana, the Republican governor, Eric Holcomb, we're going to open things in phases. It's a little bit science and a little bit art. No, it's not. So in order to understand it, everything is open May 4th, except not everything is open on May 4th. But libraries are open on May 4th, but restaurants don't open until May 11th, and they can only be open at 50% capacity. So you can bring your kids to a library where they share snot, but you can't go to a restaurant and sit next to another table. They've got to space everything apart. Hair salons also have to space things apart. No one, by the way, at a restaurant considered a bar. The bars can't open until the end of May, if not into June. But the gyms can be open towards the end of May because it's okay to sweat on each other. The malls can be open at 50% until they can be open by 75% by the end of the month. Yeah. This is what we've done.
The inconsistencies it's ludicrous looking at the list of what you can and can't do. Before the podcast, I picked up some cigars. That was cool. Went into a cigar store. That was fine. As a goof, I wanted to get.
Were you able to go into the cigar store?
Into the cigar store. I was able to pick my cigars and leave, and that was fine. Carry out. As a goof, I was going to stop at a liquor store on the way over here and get some White Claw. To say, hey, you know what? We joked about reviewing White Claw. We never have done it. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do that. I pull up to a liquor store, and it's you can't go into the liquor store in Indiana. It's a curbside only. But if I had gone to Kroger or a local grocery store here, a Walmart, I could go and walk right in, look all over their selection of whiskey and White Claw, and be able to purchase it. The inconsistencies of these policies, they're maddening.
Because the policies are not legitimate. There is no part of any of this that is at all legitimate. And if in Indiana, the people of Indiana are referred to as Hoosiers, not Indianans. Don't say that. You'll get kicked in the shin. Hoosiers. If Hoosiers think that this plan from the governor is okay, it's really well thought out, they're out of their minds. It's not well thought out. It's an obscenity, and it's weakness, and it is cowardice, Fingers, to answer your question, and it is government doing exactly what government does all the time, and we tell them not to. It's picking of winners and losers. Some businesses are okay, and some businesses aren't, and some businesses can open, and some businesses can't. And the best is, we need to give these businesses time because they can't just reopen on a dime. Who the hell is government to give anybody any time? I'll take as much time as I want. Just because you tell me I can be open doesn't mean I have to be open. I can still wait a week, a month, a year, whatever it is. I need you to give me ramp? What, are we all crazy?
Yeah, and plenty of these bureaucrats who are helping these politicians, these office holders come up with these policies have never worked in the private sector a day in their lives. To me, I would have more respect, and I don't have much respect for what's going on right now. I would have more respect if a governor came up to the mic and said, you know what, I'm just spitballing here. That's what I'm doing. So, okay, yeah, we can all tell.
Yeah, the whole Indiana plan is spitballing. And people are like happy with it. Oh, he's really, wow, this is a lot of thinking. Except for some people who are like, oh, I can't believe the governor really left it up to us to decide. They're offended that the citizenry gets the choice. First, the citizenry didn't get the choice. The governor still made the choice. And second, if you're offended the citizenry gets to make the choice, my God, China's got open arms just waiting for you. And this is what's been going through my mind for the past 2 weeks. And I will tell you, it hasn't been fun. It has been anger. And there's a difference between talking about these things and living these things, right? I still get paid through all of this. I'm fully aware of that. Have I been impacted? Absolutely. Sponsors are less, and because you can't have people show up, and of course I have been financially impacted, but I still have a job. I haven't been financially impacted like someone who isn't able to work and isn't able to bring in an income, and I don't compare myself in that way. But for what I do, I talk about this 6 hours a day. 6 hours a day. And I found myself doing something I have never done in my career. When I was an amateur and just trying to break into radio, and as I've been doing this now for almost 6 years in a professional capacity, I found myself getting angry. I found myself actually hating. I don't usually do that. It's not my style. When I started in radio, I definitely started as a red meat guy because I didn't know any better. I was still funny, and I think I had some unique takes, but there was a lot of red meat and a lot of loud, right? A lot of yelling. And I had to learn that that's not an effective way to reach people. It's not an effective way to communicate. Nobody wants somebody yelling at them. Like, you don't want someone yelling at you, during Thanksgiving dinner. You don't want any of that stuff. So how do you engage without that? How do you still have passion without screaming? So I've worked on that aggressively over my career, and I've had much success with it. And I've had people tell me I'm a squish because I'm not yelling at people. Great. That's you enjoy yourself. Between the numbers and between the growth of what we're doing, I'm gonna stick with this. I find myself effective in being able to reach people and communicate an idea and a thought. This has worked for me, and it much fits my personality. And I find myself just hating these people in a way that is completely and totally unlike me. The level of anger, the level of hate. And I had to break down, what is it that I actually hate? So I've got two, and I think there are probably more if I really dig in. What I hate are the people who have decided that a virus is the opportunity to hate. Donald Trump never said you should inject Lysol into your lungs. He never said it. To ask about disinfectants and UV lights during a presser is nuts. There's a difference between the two things.
That's another bad example of spitballing. There's a time to spitball and a time not to spitball. And a press conference about the coronavirus is not a good time to spitball.
So, and the question was odd, but you could have asked in the back room. It wasn't the end of the world. He never suggested people ingest bleach. He never suggested people ingest Clorox. And it was the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, who said the president suggested injecting Lysol into your lungs. She's disgusting. And if you're a woman who has respect for Nancy Pelosi, well, then, my God, do me a favor. Let's never meet. If you're a man who has respect for Nancy Pelosi, same thing. Nancy Pelosi doesn't speak for all women. Nancy Pelosi is a trash person. She lied, and media just lapped it all up, and they pushed the lie. And the late-night talk show hosts who are no longer interested in comedy, no longer interested in entertaining, they pushed this lie. What's the point? What's the point of that? That you hate more than you can think? Do you have to make things up? And the answer is, yeah, they do. And it boggles the mind. It doesn't do anybody any good. Chris Cuomo had coronavirus, broke quarantine twice. He still has his job, and no one said shame on you. No one. Mike Pence shows up at the Mayo Clinic without a mask, and it's the end of times. Now, listen, I'm not saying he shouldn't have had the mask. Clearly, he saw everybody else with the mask. He could have said, hey, I think I should put on a mask. The Mayo Clinic could have handed him one right there and then. Well, we told him prior. No. You could have handed him one right there and then. Here you are, sir.
You just got done saying something about the president, about, not a good time to bring that up during a press conference. I don't understand how an experienced politician like Vice President Pence couldn't look around and say, I should probably put this mask on. I don't understand it.
Look, I actually interviewed Pence this week, talked to him after he visited in Kokomo, Indiana. It's a GM plant that's now making ventilators with a group called Ventec. He was wearing a mask there. It was the day after. And so I spoke to him after that. Here's what I think, and I don't know him well. I know him a touch. He didn't want to be in a mask. He somehow thought that did not exhibit leadership. He made a mistake because America would have been just fine with it. Now, if he had worn a mask, you know what they would have said? Pence wears a mask. Clearly, he thinks this is worse than he's letting on, right? They would have spun it a billion different ways, but that part didn't matter. America would have been just fine with him wearing a mask. I think he learned that.
Yeah, this wouldn't have been Michael Dukakis in a tank with an army helmet on.
And I'm willing to bet you that was in it, like John Kerry coming out in that white, clean suit. I think it was a miscalculation in that regard.
But here's what I find disgusting about this whole thing, and you touched on it a minute ago. It's politicians like Gavin Newsom looking at the coronavirus as an opportunity to reshape the way we do business and how we govern.
Right. That's
Never let a crisis go to waste. Can you imagine a national public figure on the Republican side saying, you know what, this is a good opportunity for us to look at things like Social Security and privatize it. You name the wish list of stuff that we would like to have on the right, and have a Republican politician say, you know what, this is the time. While we have an opportunity, we have this funding to help Americans out. Let's put our pet projects in the funding bills. They would be vilified, and for good reason. And yet, progressives like Gavin Newsom can say, well, we can use this as an opportunity to reshape how we govern, and not a word is spoken.
So the first part of the hate was towards the hate. What's the point of all of this? Are we going to fight this thing? Are we going to work our way through it? Are we going to understand what we're dealing with or not? Everything has to be a way to gain political power. It's exhausting and disgusting to watch. And then the other part of it is watching those governors and those people who think that somehow you're evil for wanting people to be able to choose on their own whether or not they go back to work, how they go back to work, all the things. And I'll tell you, I was surprised at myself at how poorly I was handling it off air. During the shows, no problem whatsoever, because I do the thing, and I did talk about it. I can't describe to you the levels of absolute disgust and anger, and having to just take a step back. So I spent about a week and a half. I didn't pick up the phone. I didn't talk to my own parents, who I talk to often, 10, 11 days. I didn't call friends. I texted you and said, we're going to take a week off from the podcast. Yeah. I needed to breathe, because what I said to myself was, it's not that, I'm so destroyed. I'm Brian Stelter crying. What I said to myself is, if I allow myself to continue to feel this way, I'm going to do something on air that ends my career.
Yeah.
Now, so that's how I know I never really lost sight of myself, because I was fully aware that could happen, right? I don't do this stuff on air and not be able to use any 4-letter words like you and I might do,
right,
when we're hanging out smoking a cigar together.
Right. No, I often think about people who have mental health issues, and I'm not saying you do, but how this whole thing affects people. I have been treated in the past for anxiety. We talked about this on the show a year ago.
Depression. I spent way too much of my 20s being suicidal. By the way, that hotline is 1-800-273-8255. Just I only sought help twice. I should have done it more. I think it would have helped me get through to the other side. But yeah, make the call. 800-273-8255 if you're feeling that way.
My issues have been anxiety. I felt like I've never felt what it was like to have a panic attack. I feel like I had one a week ago in bed trying to go to sleep, or I had to get up and walk around and get a drink of water.
That wasn't an orgasm?
Why do you have to minimize my mental health, Tony? But no, it wasn't.
But really, you're in bed, and was it you were just thinking about everything, or did it just float over?
I woke up and I fell asleep, and then I had a hard time falling asleep because I'm thinking about all the things I should be doing versus all the things I am doing, and if you have anxiety, you can't turn this stuff off. I get sick and tired. It's like going up to someone who has depression and saying, cheer up. For me, if you've got anxiety and have someone walk up to you and say, well, don't worry about it.
Right.
Oh, wow. Thank you for pointing that. Thank you for making the complex simple. Jeez, why didn't I think about not worrying about it? You can't help yourself. I woke up maybe 45 minutes after I fell asleep, and I couldn't breathe. And I felt like there was a 300-pound sack on top of my chest. And I sat up, and I was gasping for air. And I've never had that feeling before. And so I wonder about people who, in this age of coronavirus, can't go and see their therapist.
But all of it is real effect. I mean, I don't know so much about, can you see the therapist, but you talk about the calls being up, the lack of connection to people leading to depression and things like that. Absolutely true. The cost on the other side of that, the cost on the dollars, the cost on livelihoods, the cost on when you have these processing plants that you close down and they're not able to process food. We talk about the food supply. I don't think it's as dire as some people wanted to make it this week about the food supply chain. And I'll tell you why. If you are in a supermarket, you will see that there's less chicken and there's less meat.
Right.
There has been less chicken and less meat since this began. You've got Tyson not able to process. You've got Smithfield not able to process. You have those suppliers that are going to have to kill livestock because they've got new livestock babies coming in, and if they can't sell it, they can't. I mean, it's awful. They can't have it. Things are going to go to waste. That's very much true. In America, it will be tighter. Around the globe, the people who are going to die from malnutrition and starvation because of this, because we shut down society, that number I'm afraid to look at.
Right.
That's very, very real. So I didn't mean to interrupt, but just on that food supply chain thing, I'm not as worried about it as some, because there are other places you can go outside the supermarket, in at least a lot of places, to engage getting the food that you need. And we're talking about certain kinds of food. There's no question that bread's still on the shelves. There's no question that butter is still there. There's no question you can still get eggs.
But what I'm worried about when it comes to that, though, is chicken will be the new toilet paper, and there will be a run on meat now. I went to Costco.
100%.
I went to Costco on Monday. I got there
Did you get the hot dog?
No, I did not get the hot dog.
I don't even know who you are.
I didn't visit the hot dog or the onion gun that they have at the hot dog place in Costco, but I got there 5 after.
5 after what?
5 after 10. They opened. I got 5 minutes after they opened, and they had a pallet of toilet paper, the Kirkland brand that they sell there. They just cut it open, and there was only a third of the pallet left 5 minutes into this, but there was toilet paper there 5 minutes into opening. I grabbed that, and then I walked over to the meat. No chicken. No. There was bone-in chicken, but no chicken breast anywhere. They were running low on ground beef. 5 minutes in. Now they could go restock it. I revisited one other time, and there was a little bit of beef, but not like it used to be when you would typically go into Costco. So that's the only thing I'm concerned about is, okay, yes, we are having these processing plants shutting down because of the virus, and that will probably create short-term shortages. But, if you Google right now, meat, and don't be careful when you Google meat, by the way. But you see story after story warning Americans about the possible shortages, and I'm worried that there is going to be a run on the grocery stores that will create even more of a mess.
Yeah, I will tell you this, that I have seen so many restaurants turn into markets, and they're having success like you wouldn't believe. Change how you do that shopping, and you might find you find what you need.
Yeah.
Now, it might cost more. So, for example, here close to home, there's a seafood market that I go to. It's actually a sponsor of my radio show. I've gone to it for years. They now offer everything. You can get meat there. You can get steaks there. You can get ground beef there. So that's where I order from now. I will show you my freezer. Now, did I hoard it? No. Am I stocked? Absolutely I am. But I'm not stocked with an individual steak. I'm stocked with a 5-pound top round, right? Yeah. That I'm going to bake off, and then I'm going to cut and serve. I'm stocked with a rib roast, right? That's what I'm stocked with. I was at a supermarket. Kroger is a supermarket, and went there, and chicken is in very, very short supply. There was some. It was just sparse. That people panicking will get them to buy. I totally agree with that. But I didn't find it more so than I have over the past month and a half. What I did see, toilet paper back on the shelves. Yeah. Did absolutely positively see that. Oh, and the people who are trying to return toilet paper, we discussed. There are people trying to return, not used. There are people trying to return toilet paper, and supermarkets like, we're not taking that back. They bought hundreds, if not thousands of dollars worth of toilet paper. I don't know if the store is allowed to not take it back. Maybe some things they don't take back. But if you're taking it back now, you just hold on to it. Just hold. There's going to be some other reason that you decide that you need it.
It doesn't spoil.
It's so awful, but not awful. Fanimation, fantastic sponsor. Ceiling fans you're going to love for your home, indoor, outdoor, LED lighting, and whisper quiet. These motors are amazing, completely customizable to make your house look incredible. Fanimation, Fanimation.com. Ceiling fans that are going to make your house look great and feel great. And you've been in this house so long, and you're tired of the squeaking during the movies. You're tired of the way it sounds, the way it looks, everything else. Is it that brass? Do you still have the ones that are the brass? I'm staring right at Fingers Malloy while I say that. Change over to Fanimation. Fanimation.com. Ceiling fans that you will love. Great people. Fantastic. Fanimation. Fanimation.com. We're smoking, and we have been for a little while. And Fingers Malloy picked up La Aroma de Cuba, which is so funny. We're having La Aroma de Cuba while we're drinking Redneck Riviera, American whiskey. This is Nicaraguan with a really dark Connecticut broadleaf wrapper. And I say really dark. I'd say dark. It does have that nice little bit of grit to it. It's actually a little smoother than I like. I like something a little grittier. I like something a touch oilier. But Aroma de Cuba, this is a box press. They do a really nice job. This is on the full side of cigars. It's got some really, really good flavor. If you like tobacco flavor, this is that kind of cigar. Now, it's a little windy. We're out here on the deck, and it's perfect. Hasn't gone out. The burn, for the most part, is pretty solid. Again, I like something that's a touch oilier on the wrapper, and maybe it's just this specific cigar, but it's just lovely and easy, and a price point of like $10 or $11. On it, which makes it absolutely excellent. And also, I mean, it rates very, very good. I like the tobacco of it. Some people will tell you that this has a more kind of a smoked almond kind of flavor, depending on who you talk to. You can decide that for yourself. La Aroma, Aroma de Cuba. Now, this is it says Mi Amor. Also on the label, it's a secondary label. A fine cigar to have, right? Fine cigar, good golf course cigar, especially being a box press. Good work in the tractor cigar, right? This is easy to handle. It's wonderfully comfortable. I'm a fan. Is this the first time you're smoking one?
Yeah, this is the first time I've smoked one of these. I have been trying to broaden my horizons when it comes to cigars. Since the start of the show, I smoked in my 20s, but then I kind of got away from it. I saw that this was highly rated on Cigar Aficionado's rating system, so I figured I would pick a couple of these up and see what it had to offer. And before we lit these, the aroma, I was very impressed with how it smelled. It's funny. The first box press we ever did, I didn't think I would like it, but now, as you know, I smoke. One of my favorite go-tos is the Nat Sherman Timeless cigars, and
is that a box press?
Some of them are, yeah. And I like the feel of a box press in my hand. I'm very happy with this, and I agree with you. There has been no struggle to keep this lit. It's a pleasant draw. This is the kind of
and you've
cigar.
got a full inch plus of ash going right now.
Yeah, this is the kind of cigar.
And I would keep it away from the equipment just in case.
Yeah. This is the kind of cigar where I do golf, Tony. But I'm not like you'll see footage of. Well, I am a good golfer.
Are you?
Well, I used to be.
Is that right?
Oh, I was damn near a scratch golfer, and then the kids came, and I stopped golfing.
Are you the John Daly of our time?
Oh, yeah, I'm a fat golfer. Yes. So, but what I've never been one like you'll see footage of Mike Ditka on the golf course, and he'll be standing over a putt, and he's got his cigar in his mouth. I don't think he takes it out of his mouth. I'm the type of person when I have a cigar on the golf course, I like to put it down, leave it in the cart when I putt, or I'm about to take a shot and then go back and. This seems like the type of cigar that would be pleasant on a golf course, that you won't have to struggle to keep it lit. You'd be able to put it down for a couple of minutes and pick right back up where you left off.
That's why it's box. I mean, the box press exists because the rollers back in the day in Cuba didn't want their cigar rolling away, so they did them as a box press so it can handle the weather. So it makes it absolutely perfect. No, this is a very, very nice, mostly balanced smoke. Easy. And simple, but definitely on the fuller side. So if you want to feel like you're smoking a cigar, this is an absolutely excellent way to go. There were some guys in New York who decided they wanted to get together, and the way that it's put together, with a story from the New York Post: rich New Yorkers hold socially distanced cigar club from their Mercedes sedans. So. That is the dumbest headline I've ever read in my entire life. This is the former CEO of I guess Modell's. It was Mitch Modell getting together with friends, all of them in Mercedes, smoking cigars through their masks. Don't do that. The mask's gonna light fire. You schmuck. You schmuck. But what this says to me, Fingers Malloy, is that we're going to do this week. You and I are going to get together with a group of people in a parking lot and smoke this week. We're putting that together.
Okay.
This is going to happen. Why is this such a bad thing? And can we discuss how cigar lounges are being impacted by what's going on? Because for many of them, right, if it's just a straight cigar lounge, if they sell alcohol, they may not be considered a restaurant. They might be considered a tavern. So that might give them bar rules. So depending on the state, they may not be able to open right away, right? Like Indiana. Or they're considered non-essential businesses and they're going to have to wait. So hopefully people are doing things curbside and grabbing from their local. I won't tell you not to get things from online in this situation. I like supporting the local places. They're all mom and pop places. So I do believe in supporting them. And I've got my humidor is as full as it's ever been.
Yeah.
Because I'm grabbing to here and I'm grabbing to there because I just want to be supportive and helpful. But if there's ever a place that by nature is socially distanced, it's a cigar lounge, because you're never elbowed, even at the bar. I mean, okay, if you want to tell people they can't be at the bar, you're wrong, but fine. Because the bar will say, hey, we need to socially distance. We'll take every other seat out. Here, we'll put a piece of tape. This is where you sit. Don't screw with us. And then that'll be that. Or you can say, you know what, don't sit at the bar. Here are all these seats, like many cigar lounges have. And some cigar lounges don't even have a bar. They just have the seating. But they can't be open. Well, they're getting destroyed.
And the cigar stores are quirky in a lot of ways. The place that I bought this cigars from, they have a little smoking lounge in the back of their store that customers go in, they'll buy, they go back, and they smoke. That part of their store is closed. You can walk in, you can pick your cigars. They're very adamant when you walk in. If you touch it, you buy it. Right. You can't, geez, I want to smell this and then put it back. But again, these weird rules of, well, okay, what can you do? What can't you do? What can this business do? What can they not do? If you're a restaurant that's a bar, you can, or if you're a bar, you can open if you serve food. But if you don't serve food, you can't be open for a time longer. The whole thing is confusing. But to go back to what you're talking about with the cigar
like strip
places.
club rules. I don't understand what the touching, the not touching, the 6 feet, the food and the drink. I can't keep up with it. Then again, I don't go to strip clubs.
But we do the show normally at Blend Bar Cigar in Indianapolis.
Wonderful people.
And you wonder how they're going to move forward, because even as a bar owner, you would hope that as a bar customer, you would hope that when you're done with the glass, they take it and they wash it. But the sanitation that's going to have to go on in these bars, the social distancing that we're going to have to do in a cigar bar, so much of it feels different when you go to a cigar bar because everybody's enjoying this experience, and you see people, strangers, walking up to tables to ask people, "Hey, what are you smoking?" And how is that social element going to be different in a cigar bar post coronavirus shutdown?
So I argue not much. So there'll be some things that I think that they will do. So, for example, the sanitation part is easy. Serve things in plastic.
Yeah.
You know what everyone will say? Okay. It'll be like Vegas. They'll accept it without question. You may want things in a rocks glass, but you'll be like, okay, this is what they're doing. I'm totally fine with it. Everything's coming in a red Solo cup. I'm cool with that. It's just fine. How they give you the cigar, first, it's going to be probably more things on a printed menu, and then those who work there will go into the humidor and get it. I think that's the way it's going to go, and they're going to cut it for you and probably light it for you in that way. Ashtrays are going to get moved and cleaned a lot in that regard, right? There's going to be a place where they do a lot of cleaning. But if you tell me that, okay, we've got these leather chairs and we need to just separate them out just a little bit more, they will. And if they lose a few seats, they're going to be more than happy to lose a few seats to allow people to come in. But what we just went over needs no government. These people will figure it out. I just want people supporting those local places. And as for these guys getting together, good for them. Good for them. There's absolutely nothing wrong with getting together. We have seen that kids want to play together. And you've seen cops telling people to keep their kids in the house. Those cops should be thrown off the force. Let your kids play with other kids. It's okay. Tell them to come in and wash their hands. Play outside. Don't play inside if that's a comfort level. But that should be about the individual choosing that level of comfort. That's exactly what it should be about. People choosing their level of comfort. Now, you, Fingers Malloy, sent me this about St. Louis.
Yeah.
Because this contact tracing thing, and it is something, if you go to TonyKatz.com, you can hear my interview with the Vice President, Mike Pence, because I asked him about contact tracing. And I said, the libertarian in me is no fan. The idea of an app on my phone and it's connecting to people and who has what. Creepy. I said, do you worry about the privacy concerns? And his answer was that, and you can listen to it, people are going to have to choose for themselves, which is indeed the correct answer. But contact tracing is something that science does, right? It is a way they trace things back and who were you with and where you were and right. So there was this story that the CDC is going to pick 420 random homes and ask for a blood sample. Do I think that's weird? No, I don't think it's weird. If you're allowed to say no, I don't think there's anything weird about it. Scientists doing science things, I don't think there's anything weird about that.
It's not a blood census.
Right? Exactly the point. And this is where people are losing their minds. You ask yourself, is this the thing you lose your mind over? If they want to be able to get samples from people to see where anybody's are and what things are going, that makes perfect sense. You don't have to participate. I don't think I would participate. Maybe I would. Maybe it's not. Maybe that is not the end all be all. Except the idea of giving blood to any government agency always would freak me out. The whole thing about your stimulus check, and we ain't done with the spending at all. So people who didn't file in a way that was direct deposit, right? If you got a return or a refund, you don't have direct deposit. Well, you get your check starting really this week. And they extend all the way through to September. Some people won't see checks until September, depending on incomes. But if you are direct deposit, you get your check faster. So I am not somebody who has ever done direct deposit. I am somebody who always waits for the check because I never want. All right, fine. I'm conspiratorial. I did what? They already have my bank account information. I know I'm wrong. But I don't want to give them. I don't want to give it to them. Right? Somehow that's my pretending that I'm safe.
I got my big fat stimulus check direct deposited in my account. I think 2 weeks ago. But who the hell knows about how far things go back in time in this day and age. 2 weeks ago feels like 2 days ago, but I think it was a couple of weeks ago because they have my direct deposit information. But my father hasn't gotten his check yet. He's 81 years old.
So that should start this week, right? Where the paper checks go out. This story out of St. Louis is something different. This is social media posts warning that St. Louis County released information it got from people who reported businesses in violation of the stay-at-home order. So people are narking on their neighbors. People are narking on businesses. I don't know how you can't think this is the ugliest stuff, the most un-American stuff, the what the hell happened to the country stuff as you've ever seen before.
And their names for reporting their neighbors are being it's available now on the internet. So
wait, which part is available?
The people who snitched. That was the whole thing about the story. Is now those people who snitched, their names are now available on a list. So snitches get social media stitches in this case because you've got people saying, "Okay, here's the list. If you want to know who ratted on you, here you go."
And this is why I lose my mind. I don't want people snitching. I don't want people narking on their neighbors. What are we? Is this feeding the Gestapo information time? And I don't want to release those names either.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Are they scumbags? Yeah, they're scumbags. They're scum. They're the scum of the earth.
Yep.
I don't want their names released.
It's from KSDK.com. A spree of social media posts this week warn of St. Louis County released the information it got from people who reported businesses in violation of the stay-at-home order. So now, the county is now worried about people.
So am I supposed to say good? That'll teach them? Like, is that supposed to be my answer? I think you're a scumbag if you snitched, but none of this ends well.
No,
right? None of this ends well, and it's.
Let me ask you this, Tony, because this came up in conversation with a couple of friends of mine. I don't like snitches. Don't like snitches at all. Don't like you looking at your neighbor, seeing someone is having. I live in a neighborhood. I've got a little retention pond in my backyard. I've got 10 homes.
Gorgeous view.
Thank you.
Spectacular view. Goes on for forever.
10 houses, I'm guessing, surround this pond. Last night, I'm out smoking a cigar, having a Zoom conference call, which, of course, as we all know now, 95% of all Zoom conference calls are really just happy hours. People with friends drinking. And I'm watching, and 2 homes on the pond are having parties. They're having bonfires in the backyard. They're having a good time. And I'm wondering
So you called?
No, I didn't, but I wondered how many Karens in my neighborhood made that call. I'm against those calls, but say you're a business. Say you're a restaurant.
Right.
And you are obeying the rules. And then you've got other restaurants in the area where you're clearly saying, "Oh, the parking lot's packed." They aren't obeying the rules. As a business owner, would you feel compelled to say, "Wait, I'm playing by the rules," and Jim's Crab Shack over there, they aren't obeying the rules, and they're taking business away from me as I'm trying to obey the rules? Do you have a problem with that business narking on the other business?
Yes, I would. I always would, because the rules, the idea of obeying the rules here is in and of itself problematic, because the shutdown in and of itself is arbitrary.
Right.
Right? And I know this because Governor Andrew Cuomo, when pressed on this, told people, if you want a job, go be an essential worker. To your kids, you're an essential worker. End of list. It ends there. So a business saying, screw it, I'm gonna open, they're taking that risk in dealing with the police or dealing with government. That's okay. Narking on them, that I'm not down with that.
Well, don't do it in St. Louis County, apparently.
I'm not down with either side of this. But you bring up the Karen thing. First, let me just say, does everyone know what a Karen is? I really have issues with this meme.
Oh, come on, have some fun.
I'll tell you why. The meme, it started with a Karen is a woman, a middle-aged woman, with the short haircut, spiky hair, who yells at the manager of the Gap for not taking her return properly.
The Kate plus 8 haircut.
Yes, the Kate plus 8 haircut. She is a Karen, right? So that, and it's a meme, and it has started to explode. And it explodes for somebody who narcs on people or, thinks it should be only their way. And this applies to men and women. My issue with it is I feel sorry for people named Karen. I do.
Boomer.
I feel awful for women named Karen. It's terrible.
But it's the perfect name.
There's a story that's written over at Medium, and Medium basically is the New Age Live Journal.
Yeah.
It's basically a place where people write anything they want. And if you'll notice, you talk about shortages of chicken or beef, flour. There's a shortage of flour. And it's not necessarily a shortage, it's that a lot of stores are sold out because of this. People are baking like never before. They're cooking like never before. There are actually some interesting things that are going to come out from this in terms of when people realize, wait a second, I can bake. I can make this for my family, and I have time. I can do this. It didn't take as much time as I thought. I can build this into my life. Well, that's going to change how people go to restaurants and do a lot of things. I think it's going to be kind of fascinating. And some people are going to find, oh my gosh, I love this. And they're baking cookies or they're baking breads and they're trying things and they're learning. It's really, that is something that I think culturally is going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. How many people are like, no, I like doing this. No, we don't have to go out for that nonsense meal. We can do this. We were good at let's keep doing this and let's not wait, that meal for the four of us was $73. I can make that meal for $7.30.
Yeah.
Let's do it at home. Let's do this. And let's save going out for special things.
Yeah, I've wondered, about, we're in the business of providing content. We're content providers. So I look at different genres of content providers to see how they do things. And I've wondered, I've got a couple of food channels on YouTube that I watch now. And I wonder if they've received a spike in views on YouTube because people are like, I'm going to cook from home. And
almost guaranteed.
And the thing is, I will watch these food channels and I'll watch them make something. And of course, it always looks easier when a trained chef knows how, they're making a dish. But I'll sit back and be blown away about how easy some of this stuff is. And I've just thought to myself, well, it's too hard, or I don't want to go through that. And you see them make things like even like their own pasta or something to where it doesn't have to be through a machine and all that. You can do it and do it in 10 minutes. And you're like, wow, this is simple. I think that there are going to be so many things that come out of this that change our behavior. And that's one of them where people are going to sit back and say, wow, I used to go out and go get a $50 steak at a steakhouse. I can make this at home and make it the way I want it to be made and not have to get dressed up, not have to leave, and enjoy myself.
There might be things that are either ethnic or maybe high-end things that you don't feel you can do on your own, and it's worth going out for. Sushi, Indian food, Thai food. The steakhouse, I think, still remains. But the everyday meals, I think people are going to get into this idea. And it's less going out, which isn't the worst thing in the world, right? That thought will still be in the back of their head. This woman writes at Medium, and she says, I can't find flour. You people don't understand. I make all my own food because I'm very worried about what goes into my body. And when I make fried chicken, it's the breadcrumbs from the bread I made. When I make this, it's because I made this. And you people out there are just selfish because you're buying all the flour and now we can't find it. We can't find yeast and this and that. And people like myself are really affected because you're out there baking. Do you know how selfish, and usually I'm fine with selfish. Do you know how victim you want to be to think that this is a problem in the world, that people are baking? Oh, no, you're not allowed to bake because real cooks like me who need to make their own food, they're not able to now.
See, why are you being a bakist? I feel for this person. She's being, she is being taken advantage of. She's a victim, Tony. She's a victim.
Best part of the story? Ask me her name.
Oh, please be Karen.
It's Karen. Her name is Karen. It's the best part of the whole damn story.
That's beautiful.
But I mean, can you imagine just how diseased you are in the head to think, how dare these people be baking? People love to be victims. They adore being victims.
That would be me saying, how dare you people drink? I'm a drinker, and you people walking around buying all the booze. I can't get a hold of my whiskey. How dare you? Oh, my goodness. What an age we live in. But I wanted to bring something up, Tony, because I know you're probably getting close to wrapping up.
I am.
Before we started the show, we talked about shopping local when it comes to buying our cigars, and I do that. I stopped at my local store, and I bought 5 sticks. I also bought, this is the first time I ever bought cigars online. And you mentioned you wanted to bring up about, I bought a package deal. My dad sent me this.
Right.
From this,
you can
cigar,
say who.
I believe it's Thompson Cigars.
Right. Let me see if I can find it.
And so it's, all these online cigar retailers, they try to hook you. They'll have like a 5 cigar pack that will be cheaper than what it normally would be. And they're always throwing deals. Well, this was a 10 cigar pack with and it also had a cutter and a lighter and a 20 stick humidor for $19.99. And I looked at that and I thought, okay, I've never heard of any of these cigars.
Right.
But I said to myself, oh, what the hell? It's $20. And I started talking about the humidor. I was like, I don't know if this is a good humidor. It's probably not a good humidor. I don't know. And he said, let's talk about this on the air. So I wanted to get a sense of what you were going to bring up about humidors, because it seemed like you wanted to.
So yeah, they always have some kind of deal like that. And honestly, I have when I first started, I got some of those kind of humidors, simple cherry wood box, not the best seal in the world. You're going to constantly be filling it with distilled water. Always distilled water in your humidor, please. Here is the answer. There are plenty of cigars out there that you have never heard of, off-brands and, seconds or thirds or mistakes or stuff like that. And some of them you'll find, not bad. Some of them you'll be like, this is really not something that I can smoke. Is it worth trying? Well, yeah, it's worth trying. And I don't say no to that. But when it comes to humidors, it's important to get something that has the ability to really close well, right? It seats properly, so you're keeping the moisture in. A humidor, you will spend a little bit of time seasoning, if you will, to get that cedar to take in the moisture, so it's not taking the moisture out of the air. There are canisters, right? Some of them are porcelain. Some of them are plastic. A cigar jar is probably the most famous of them. They work. They absolutely do work. And sometimes they're great if you want to have a couple in the office, right? And stuff like that. Or you're going to have a couple somewhere else and you need access to them. They do indeed work. As for the cigars that are part of your pack, who knows? Who knows whether or not these things are going to be any good? I have no way of knowing. But in terms of the box, I think you'll find that you're spending a lot of time with the box, a lot of time with the humidor. Now, does that mean you have to go out and spend $500 on a humidor? The answer is no, but you can. There's real artwork in humidors and styles that you like and things like that.
Oh, some of them are beautiful. Look like almost like a piece of furniture. They're very nice.
My humidor, I want to make sure I have it right. I believe my humidor is from Cuban Crafters. So CubanCrafters.com is what it is, and it has done me very, very well. I have not had any issue with it whatsoever. I have found it to be a fine box. Some people might tell me that it's just a big hot mess. Now, understand, these are not advertisers of ours. Thompson's not an advertiser. Cuban Crafters is not an advertiser. I went to their website for the first time in forever. I click on featured deals. This is a Cuban Crafters humidor. Holds 100. It's $35.
Wow.
So I would say to you that is based on what I have, and I spent much more than $35. Probably a better way to go. Normally wind's blowing. $148. $35. I think that if you're going to be somebody who keeps cigars in for a length of time, you need to make the investment, right? If you're somebody who is just holding 10, and you're going to churn through them over the next 3 weeks, and then I think that a simple box is totally fine. Some people use Tupperware. It's totally fine for that purpose. Is it the ideal? No. So I think you're going to spend more time with your box than maybe you'd like to, but I don't think it's the end of the world.
I just have gotten to the point. I've got a little porcelain. Is it porcelain?
It's porcelain.
Yeah.
Right. It came from Davidoff.
Yes.
And it's great for what it is.
Yes. It only holds 10 cigars. And at first I thought that's fine. That's all I need. But now I'm noticing, and I've been posting them on social media, and it's not because I'm smoking the most expensive, wonderful cigars in the world. It's just like, oh, I'm out. It's a nice night. I'll take a picture of my cigar. I'm going through cigars like crazy, Tony.
Because you're home?
Yes, because I'm home. I've gotten to the point where now I'm almost, it's 5 nights a week now. I'm smoking a cigar.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so now that 10 cigar porcelain humidor just isn't cutting it. And the other thing I noticed too, the other day I had a Punch after dinner cigar. It's not
Punch. Punch has been around for a while. You'll find punches where you're like, man, you'll find punches like, you know what? This is just fine.
Yeah, but I noticed this after-dinner cigar, it's not very expensive, but it did rate, I believe in 2017 or 2018, it was in Cigar Aficionado's top 25 cigars. I bought one. I went to put it in my humidor, and it looked like it was actually a little longer than a Churchill, and it wouldn't fit in my humidor. So I was like, okay.
God, that's funny.
Yeah, so now I was like, I saw this box, and I thought, oh, what the hell? It's $20. But I'm curious to see how this works out, because I think I'm getting to the point, if I keep smoking like this, I'm going to find an everyday cigar that I enjoy, and I'm going to buy a box of them. And at that point, I need, like you said, I'm going to feel really sick if I buy a box of cigars and I've got a humidor that just doesn't cut it, and they get ruined because I don't have a.
But again, it's going to be how much time you spend on that box. If you're checking it, every other day, and you're filling it with a little bit more, or you're putting the distilled water, you're putting the pouches in there. They have solutions that you can get. I've never been a super big fan of those. Some people might disagree and be like, no, they work well, and here's why. I think that's the issue. How much time you're going to spend with it. But the cheaper boxes don't. They just don't. They won't seal the same. It's how they're crafted, how they're put together. And someone might say of my box, Tony, you need a this or that. Everyone's got. But I have great success with my box, and I find that it holds very, very well. I've had it for a few years now. I will admit, over the last couple months, maybe I'm seeing a little variation with it, but also I've been smoking a little bit more. And so there's more opening and closing of it. There's also weather changes and things like that.
Right.
That maybe, I could say are having an effect. That's all. I don't think for $20, there's nothing not worth trying in that case. And even the cigar sampler that you got, some of them I never heard of, some of them I had heard of. You might find something's very, very surprising.
But it's $20.
If you're okay with blowing the $20, totally blow the $20 and see what you get.
It may be worth it just if I get 3 good cigars out of the 10.
Right.
It's $20. And then I got a humidor, and it may be a situation where if that humidor's not all that big, it's only a 20-stick humidor, I'm going to be traveling. If I use it as a travel humidor and put it in my suitcase.
No. That will not work.
You don't think so?
You need something that has a latch, not a lock, but a latch.
What if I put a bungee cord around it?
Well, you
really classing things up.
Do you also pack in garbage bags? No, that won't do it. Nope, okay. It won't work. First of all, you need something that I think that is much more rugged in that regard. You need something so it won't crack. I remember this thing is still wood, right?
Yeah, that's
so it
true.
can crack.
That's true.
It's not. Travel is something completely different, right? You've got the cigar thing, like the 3 cigar holders that you can put in your pocket, right? I have one of those. Mine was gotten by my late father-in-law. Was bought for me. That's alligator. It's not my style, but I keep it because it was from my father-in-law. But you need something. You need a rugged And I forget the name of it, but I have one.
When you travel for a week like that, can you put them in a travel case like that doesn't have a puck or something and be okay with that? Or will they?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Just in a week, you
some
have
of
to
them
worry.
will have a place built in where you can put in the drops of distilled water. You get a pouch, right? A Bovita pouch or something like that, and you throw it in there, and you're good. Remember, you're taking them from your humidor, you're putting them in there, you put the pouch in, and what is it? It's a 5-day convention.
Right.
You're gonna be just fine. In that regard, right? You're just not going to load them up to travel with until the last minute. Now, don't get me wrong. I've traveled with boxes of cigars where I'm bringing actual boxes with me, and for the most part, it's fine. But a humidor like you're talking about is not something that I don't think I would travel with it.
That's good to know.
Get
and
the
I'm
hard
learning
case.
something here. I mean, you're talking to a guy that will pack glass bottles of liquor in the suitcase and take them to conferences. So, I trust the fine folks at the airlines too. If you see them load your luggage into the planes, they're so careful when they're so delicate.
Yeah.
with
And
the
these
luggage.
days you'll know it's yours because there's only 3 people on the plane.
That's true.
Although more people are flying, more people have said screw the social distancing.
Oh, can I
what? Yeah, what?
really quickly? So I have a relative that flew for the first time, and he said there have been a lot of changes. What airlines are doing. For instance, first class is now boarding last, which makes sense, right? Because
Right,
why would you
people
have the
walking through.
people sitting at the front of the plane? Drink service, no drink service anymore. But on this particular airline, they were handing out a little care package to every passenger: bottle of water, snack, and hand sanitizer.
Brilliant. Didn't need government to do that. People will just figure it out. The market will take care of it. That's Fingers Malloy. Find them at Fingers Malloy, MALLOY.com. Wham Talk 1600 Radio, by the way. If you're in Michigan, check him out there. Find me at TonyKatz.com, Facebook, Tony Katz Radio, Instagram and Twitter, Tony Katz. And, of course, subscribe at Apple Podcasts to Eat, Drink, Smoke. Subscribe, tell a friend, write a review, leave a 5-star review. Do that immediately, if not sooner, on Apple Podcasts. By the way, thank you to Fanimation. That's our sponsor. And Blend Bar Cigar, we love you. We'll be back soon enough. This is Eat, Drink, Smoke.